So ventral meaning it's more towards the anterior part. And then spinal thalamic tells us what? It's going to go from the spine to the thalamus. And so in this case, it's either going to cross over immediately or it's going to cross over after ascending one or two levels. So this one has a little bit of variation to it. And then as we mentioned before, the posterior column is going to remain on the same side until it goes to the brainstem. The posterior column is what we already covered. Now we're talking about this ventral spinal thalamic tract.
Of the lateral column. Of the lateral column.
Well, it's going to be more anterior. But see, I'm not sure exactly what it's classified, but I think it would be anterior because if we're talking ventral, that's going to be more towards the front. I'll have to look at a chart to show exactly where it is. Let me see here. I think it's probably going to be the same as what's called the, it's also referred to the anterior spinal thalamic. So ventral spinal thalamic is going to be in anterior, and it's different than most sensory. Most sensory is going to be in the posterior column. In this case, we're talking about anterior. And it's going to cross at the same level, just like when we talked about the lateral spinal thalamic. But not exactly at the same level. Either it crosses right away, or it's going to go up one or two segments and then cross. But the basic idea is that it's going to cross more or less at the level of the spine. Ascend on the opposite side, go to the thalamus, and then to the cerebral cortex. So, since light touch is covered by two different tracts, and if you have a lesion to one half of the spinal cord, you're not going to lose both. Okay, so if one half is severed, you might lose the posterior column on one side and then the ventral spinal thalamic on that same side, but you're going to have, but they don't cross at the same point. You understand what I'm saying? The posterior column doesn't cross until it gets up here, and then the spinal thalamic tracts cross usually at that level of the spine, or in this case for light touch, it's going to cross at that level or one or two levels up. So a lot of times the body has redundancy built into it so that if you lose one side of the spinal cord, you're still going to have one of the other tracts. So that's why some cross right away, some cross up the cord. So usually light touch is going to be spared. So now we'll talk about unconscious proprioception. So conscious proprioception is going to be the posterior column. Fasciculus cuneatus and gracilis. So unconscious is going to be spinal cerebellar tracts. And so we're going to have the dorsal and the ventral. Spinal cerebellar. So that tells us spinal cerebellum, we know it's going from the spine to the cerebellum. And as we mentioned with the cerebellum, basically the cerebellum controls the same side of the body. Right? So cerebellum problems on one side is going to affect the body on the same side. And just to keep it simple, I guess what we're saying in this class is that they never cross. But if you look into it deeper, what you find is that some of them never cross, some of them cross, and then cross back. But the end effect is that basically they affect the same side of the body. So For our purposes, we're going to say that cerebellum is going to affect the same side of the body. So for cerebellum or unconscious proprioception, if we have a lesion to T11 on the right, what side of the body is going to affect? Right side. And so then left side of C4 can be the left arm. Correct. Right side.
So, what's the difference between conscious and unconscious proprioception?
Unconscious proprioception is, conscious proprioception is where you're mentally aware of the position of your body in space. Unconscious is things that happen beyond your conscious perception. Like if you have cerebellar problems, you may not realize that you're not coordinating your posture. Conscious is where you're aware of it. Cerebellum stuff maybe it's going to be like tremors or something like that, where you may not be able to know that you're flapping your arms or something like that. Conscious proprioception is where you can feel joint position. We talked about stereognosis, where you can consciously know what you're touching if you're not looking at it.